advantage. The company is called ADT, and what was developed is a low-cost housing solution based on compressed agricultural fibers. And our basic fiber is wheat straw. Therefore, we focus on countries that grow wheat. Of course, this is like bread. So we actually promote farmers, and typically in developing and third world countries, the farming community is living way below the standard of living. Yet, the industrialization side of it, the flour mills, typically are a monopoly and pay the minimum amount to the farmers. So what we offer farmers on a global basis is a new cash crop to sell their waste for cash. And if they don't sell the waste to us, typically in developing countries they burn the field. And that causes, of course, a horrendous environmental concern. The panels are, I'm going to speak in American terms, the panels are 4 feet by 8 feet by 2 inches. And that's your typical construction panel, such as drywall, gypsum board, plywood, whatever. So it's a 4 by 8 panel, and it's made with the fibers from wheat straw, compressed, enormous compression and extreme heat. Then they're wrapped in a recyclable craft paper. So the total package is sustainable, renewable, and biodegradable. The adhesive that holds the straw together is a natural reaction under heat and pressure from wheat. It emanates an enzyme called amine, and it's like a glue. The actual outside of the panel, the glue is, again, a byproduct of the flour mill. We actually are paid by the flour mill to remove the flour dust from the floors in the mill. They pay us to haul it away. We mix that with water and we spray it on the straw before we wrap it with the craft paper. My background is I was a primary school teacher, and in the evenings I sold appliances for a retail store, and I worked on a commission basis. And I really enjoyed it. I liked meeting with people and marketing, and I did very well. When it came to the point that my evening income was around 5 to 6 times higher than my daytime income, I thought maybe I made an error in my career choice. So I decided to look into marketing and sales. I was attracted to a new innovation called the microcomputer. And I became the first employee of a company called Wang Computer. And I was the Canadian, I shouldn't say it, but I was the Canadian Wang. And I was there, I developed my skills, honed my skills, but I really had an ambition to do something on my own. So after 14 years, I became the regional manager, since I was the only employee in Canada. Yes, I became the regional manager. And I decided to go out and find some, apply my learned skills in marketing. And so I decided to become a consultant and work with other companies that were starting up in Canada, such as a little firm called Apple Computers in Montreal, and computer innovation. So I was really getting into the marketing and promotion. But my background, my father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather were in the construction business. I always had an ambition to find a technology, not just to actually build or go into a subdivision and do a development. I wanted to really get into building technology, apply what I learned in the computer business to the housing business. So I looked at what was going on in my local community, and most of the housing was being built by plywood frame homes and bricks and the like, and that was fine for the environment I was in. But I worked with a lot of ethnic people in the Toronto area who had an Eastern and Central European background, and they suggested I go and look at that new market that was just free from the monopoly of the USSR. So I looked at the market in Czechoslovakia, Ukraine, the Baltic I realized that there was a huge housing gap. There was a very, very rich upper class, and a very, very poor lower class. There was no middle class. And great demand for housing, because under the old communist regime, they built beehives. I mean, very awful, concrete, disgusting apartment buildings, very similar. It had good airflow, because the windows didn't fit, and the wind would come right through. You didn't have to look at the windows, look outside. And never walk in the balcony because you don't know what's going to hold you. So we decided to take North American building technology over to Eastern and Central Europe. So I brought over the technology of doing light steel frame houses. Light steel was well accepted by the locals because steel seemed to be solid. But it was the infill between the steel panels that made it didn't like the hollowness, the lightness of the way we build homes in North America. They didn't think that it would last for 4 or 5 generations of a family. As you went further east into Ukraine and Russia, of course, the main concern was being bulletproof. And the North American framed homes were not acceptable. But also for the average income earner, it was too expensive. So I had to find a way of combining the light steel frame with a very solid, yet inexpensive, environmentally friendly, renewable, sustainable panel. So I did a global search, and in Western Canada, I found an old technology of compressed agricultural fiber. And these machines were 33 meters long. In total, between 33 and 66 tons in weight. And they produced an excellent panel being used for roof decking. But in the 1970s and 80s, when styrofoam was introduced, these panels from straw weighed 98 pounds. And you have roofers who are being paid by piecework or by the job completion, taking a 98-pound panel to 2 guys to put it in place. Styrofoam, of course, to be thrown across the roof. I thought to take that technology, instead of having it this way, we'll have it this way. So I combined my light steel frame with the straw panel. The straw panel, when it's coated in a stucco finish, when you knock on it, I was going to find drywall. Drywall, sorry, this is not that. That's all. No? Like that. Okay, so it had a good, solid sound to it. So for the Russian who wants the bulletproofness, that's fine. For the Ukrainian who wants to have his house for 5 or 6 generations, it solves the problem. But the big point is that it's like the blue jeans syndrome. When the independence happened in the USSR, the first thing that a Czech or a Slovak wanted was a pair of American blue jeans. He didn't want a product that North America was making that was substandard to ship there. He wanted the designer jeans that he saw on TV. So our technology really, because it's so affordable, I can build a shelter that's less expensive than a canvas tent. Yet we can use it here. That's what's the name of that? Santana Row. I can build that type of facility. And I can build a shelter that's 90 square meters in Nigeria that will house a family of 5 for around $600, using the exact same technology. So we're not marketing one technology for the poor, another technology for the middle class, and another technology for the rich. It's the same technology for all people. I think that's a solution that the world has missed in a lot of treatment of developing countries. You have to use for yourself what you think the rest of the world is going to use. You don't push something that is just cheap. It's got to fit into a global environment. Now, I have set factories for light steel in Eastern Europe. Okay. Okay. Now what we did is we took a focus on one country. This is for the Tech Award. I've now talked technology, I haven't talked economics. Very quickly, I took the model of Romania. I'm sure you know that Romania is going into the European Union, and it has to upgrade its living accommodations. Hit by a terrible flood about 4 months ago, it won't recover for years and years and years. In Romania, it's a mostly agriculturally based country. 70% of the economy is based, 4% of the labor force works in the agriculture. 13.9% of the GDP is agriculture. The poverty line in Romania is $7,000 US dollars per year, and most farmers live well below that poverty level. If it wasn't for the actual products that they're producing on farms, they would starve. So, in general, 45% of the population in Romania lives below the poverty level. That does not include the Roma. I'm not sure if you all know the term Roma. If not, the term that a lot of our countries use is gypsy. There are no statistics on the gypsy. Okay, throughout most of Europe, countries don't keep statistics on the Roma. I take it people. So, a lot of these, because the economies for farming is so poor, the young people are leaving Romania, or leaving the farms and leaving the city. The city can't handle the food threat. It is overwhelmed with young people moving in from the farms. To keep them back to the farms, you've got to create jobs. We create jobs by developing these homes. We also give them a better lifestyle because we give them increased cash crop to a farmer. A farmer in Romania would get about $40 a ton for his grain. We'll give him $25 a ton for his garbage. Rather than burn it in his field, we'll now say to him, we'll come out to your field and we'll collect it. And we'll build houses for your community. We'll have your son have a job, maybe being a home builder. Okay. So my Tech Award is based on the Romanian statistics of economics. My company is really environmentally involved. We're looking at all different types of fibers. Not just wheat straw, but for Africa, trouble is a real problem with the invasion of elephant grass. Every year, Africa is set on fire to burn back elephant grass in the field. Where did you take elephant grass? Pay a new sector of the economy, call them harvesters of elephant grass. That will harvest the elephant grass from the field, around the field, and sell it to our factories. Better income. In Senegal, there's an invasion of a reed that's growing in all the river deltas. We can take that reed and make it into others. And also wild grasses and so that. So, bottom line is, this is not just a technology that has an economic basis to it. And it's an environmentally friendly. But a guy like me who was a school teacher who sold appliances at night can encompass, or what do you call the word? I felt this technology. It was because of a good educational background, good knowledge of international businesses, coming from the city of Toronto, which is very oriented. That's what developed. Basic education, community hard work, and just keeping your mind open to opportunities and staying friendly to the environment. Thank you very much. There we are. We harvest the wheat. We compress it with my machinery, and this house could be $3,800. You won't get that in San Jose.
Okay, next up we have our representative from it shouldn't matter.
I'm going to talk to you about a food processing system called Vitagoat. It's got its name because a goat is an animal that eats all kinds of things and produces various foods. It's a food processing system developed for developing countries, for nutrition and micro-enterprise development. It's one of the main attributes of it is it's a non-electric system. A lot of developing countries don't have reliable electricity in rural areas and villages. If they have electricity, it's too expensive for a lot of people. On this click here, I should use the mouse. It consists, if you can look at the picture from left to right, on the left side is a steam boiler. In the center are two stainless steel components. The top piece is a pressure cooker, which is fed steam from the boiler. And then there's a filter press down below that you filter out if you're making soy milk or if you're making juices or anything where you want to separate fibers. You use a filter press. On the right, you see a really twisted kind of exercise machine, and that's our cycle grinder. The boiler uses all kinds of different fuels because you can't really rely on one particular kind of fuel in a developing country. You might have gas available in some places, you might have coal, you might have just wood, or in some parts of the world, even gum chips, which are compressed with straw and dried fuel source. The food that's produced, as I mentioned, soy milk. We won't go into detail about soy milk, but soy foods are a very, very cost-effective way of delivering protein and dairy alternatives to people who can't afford animal proteins or cow milk. The cycle grinder does flour and meal and a variety of things that don't need to be cooked. We're working on a fruit and vegetable dryer, which is powered by the boiler. The fruit and vegetable dryer essentially is a simple system where steam from the boiler goes into an automobile radiator, and then a fan takes that to a very simple drying cabinet. We're working on technology transfers, which is the way that we're intending to keep it sustainable, because the equipment cannot always be manufactured in the West. It's very expensive to manufacture in the West, and it's not sustainable if it's not manufactured in the developing world. We're working on additional tech transfers beyond Africa and India, and we have new projects in South and East Asia, Southeast Africa. The system is now been set up in 7 countries. We've been doing this for about 2 years, and we're now finally getting some gravity by way of these technology transfers for it. Starting to be manufactured in India and in Africa. This very complex looking chart just essentially goes through the process. If you look from left to right, on the left at the top you've got a cycle grinder that you saw in the picture previously, and you have the inputs at the top, coffee, beans, and vegetables, and fruit. They go through the grinder, then those products flow, get manually transferred into a cooker, which is in the center section there. You pressure cook it with steam that's injected from the boiler, which is on the right. And then you see down in the lower levels the variety of food outputs, coffee, cornmeal, peanut butter, nut butters, fruit, vegetable puree, and then there's a whole array of soy milk products, some of which you're familiar with, such as yogurt, tofu, drinks. And on the far right, you see the fruit and vegetable dryer, which is powered off the boiler. This chart just kind of gives you an idea of what a system will produce in an hour. In the soy milk, dairy category, you get about 8 gallons an hour. You need the whole system for that. Fruit and vegetable sauces and purees, about 7 gallons an hour. Again, you need the whole system for that. And then the lower 3 categories of flours, peanut butters, coffee, other things that are uncooked, at least not cooked at this stage. Coffee, obviously, you're going to be putting boiling water to it, but the peanut butter and flours and meals, they're not cooked in the production stage. They're cooked at home when you make bread and lunch. And for those last 3 categories, you only need the cycle grinder in order to process those. The applications and economics. This equipment is used for direct feeding in social institutions, co-ops, group enterprises in villages. There's a variety of local foods. Sometimes fruits and vegetables come into season and they're available cheaply in collected form. And if people can't process them fast enough, so 2 months later they don't have any of these fruits and vegetables. And if they had a way to process them and preserve them, like home canning, they would have produce months after the fruits and vegetables were available. As I mentioned, with low infrastructure costs, because it was designed not to require electricity or running water. The top picture there, you see a typical installation of the boiler on the left. The man standing there with the pressure cooker with the press below, and the fellow on the right is working the cycle grinder, and the grinder preparing foods, which are then put into the pressure cooker and cooked. Technology transfer is highlighted here again because that's the only way this is ultimately going to be sustainable, because we cannot simply build these things in North America and export them. We've been able to reduce the price by 60%. The Indian manufacturer now is doing very, very nice quality equipment for under $2,500. And if that seems expensive, keep in mind that's for a system which will provide nutrition for 500 to 1,000 people and will employ between 5 and 10 people. So on a job creation basis, it's about $500 per job created for the investment. And in terms of nutrition delivery, it's putting out for the money probably 10 times the amount of food that we would be producing doing manual water and pestle type grinding, which is common in the developing world, or hand milling, or cooking foods on open fires which are not energy efficient. There's no royalties, nothing's been patented. The system is intended to be copied. Naturally, we want to control how well it's copied. We don't want people to make unsafe or poor quality copies. Essentially, the idea was to get the equipment out there, and if people do copy it and without any influence from us, that's fine as long as the quality is there. So that is it. Thank you very much.
Next up, we have our representatives from Tech Award Laureates.
I don't have a presentation, but I'll talk for some 7 minutes. As the instructor just told us before when we were here, before you guys came in, was what inspired you to do anything what we do. Many years ago, while I was doing my PhD was on rural electrification in India. Midway, after 6 months, thought, how can I write about it when I don't know how to live in a house which has no light? So I went to a rural part in India, very rural, where there was no electricity. Stayed there for 2 years with no electricity. To basically find out how does it feel to live without electricity. And now I think that's a much better life. Zero relax, no emails, nothing. Enjoy good night's sleep. You wake up in the morning, fresh air. And that's the life I guess we all strive for, right? But it complicates things. Well, I stayed there for 2 years, but a lot of pressure from my professor. Where's your thesis? The chapters are not coming in. So I basically then got a laptop and then had a solar panel on top of my house and started writing on it. And what I had written before had made no sense at all because the whole dynamics in the village was so different. The whole and technology became such only a small part of it. And so at the end of when I was about to leave the village and the whole village gathered and listened, you're leaving and then an old lady just runs into my house, catches hold of my feet and says, can you provide me light in my house before I die? I've never seen light. Right? It gives you a complete different perspective, and she's getting unwilling to pay for it. The whole myth that poor people cannot pay for energy services actually gives a different meaning. Then I went to Sri Lanka for 6 months, in remote up north Sri Lanka, to work for a friend of mine, providing lights, basically installing lights outside the house so the elephants won't attack the house. But one night what happened was, the group of terrorists attacked the village. 30 terrorists with guns and machine guns attacked. So, because I was from India, and that time Sri Lanka and India did not have a relationship, I was shoved into a horse stable with the horses, stayed there for 48 hours in the horse stable. And bullets right through top, like in the group. After 48 hours, the villagers came and took me out, and all our 25 panels were stolen. The terrorists had taken all the 25 panels to charge their batteries for missile launches. So it's a different market. There's market opportunity everywhere. And that's how the Kashmiri Muslims, the Islam Muslims, you look at all of our methods, I mean, so that's a beautiful thing. Yeah, and then we're 2 years in this, and then we found out that a lot of times what happens is we push technology down people's throats, and we think we know it all. Because we are educated, we are from the so-called urban world, and we know it all. And we try to shout without looking at what the need is. And whether you talk of the World Bank, whether you talk of the United Nations, whether the IFC, it's all about policies about how should we implement, remove poverty, one thing. It's all this buzzword. And put energy services in the rural area, technology, without accessing the needs what people actually want. Why do they need electricity? Look at it. They need small amounts of electricity provided in a way that's useful for them. Either it can have better education, or it can lead to better income generating activities. Secondly, financing. People don't realize the importance of financing. Just a lady comes, and if you all say that poor people in developing or rural areas cannot afford it. A lady came and said, 300 rupees a month, very expensive, 10 rupees a day is fine. How do you create financing that matches her cash flow on a daily basis? Just because the financial institutions cannot cater to her on a daily basis, we bracket her into an unaffordable category. Rather than we looking at our financing mechanism, creating a financial product that can meet her needs on a daily basis. She's willing to pay 11 rupees per day or 10 rupees, but she cannot pay 300 rupees because she sells vegetables on the street, and she has 11 rupees at 10 o'clock in the night, but nobody is there to collect. Just because we cannot create a financing mechanism, we all say that, okay, we cannot afford it. So when we started Telco in 94, and with the concept was how do you integrate technology, financing, and other upstream and downstream marketing in a way that we can push the exact technology that's needed by the people. Let's give you an example what I mean by upstream and downstream. There were 50 women who came and said they have sewing machines. They were doing 2 shirts a day. Converted the sewing machine into solar sewing machine with a light. They could do 8 shirts a day. We had increased their production, not their income. They were doing 2 shirts a day because the market was for 2 shirts. Who is going to concentrate on how to create a market for those extra 6 shirts? People, our investors classically, would say, oh no, that's not your forte. If that's not my forte, I cannot sell my technology, I cannot do my business. I have to look at how do I create the upstream marketing for these 50 women so my technology can be of use to them, uplift their quality of life, increase their income, so the children can study, etc., etc. So went to the financial institution who was ready to finance for these 50 women and looked at their portfolio, and there was a hospital. Went to the hospital wanted blankets and pillow covers. Connected the hospital to these 50 women via the financial institution. The financial institution would collect on a monthly basis from the hospital, deduct the amount for the solar system, and give the rest of the money to the women. No subsidies involved. And now the women were able to have better income, had solar power in their house without subsidy. Similarly, in other women's group events, so my bread and butter, I'm hardcore solar guy, bread and butter comes from solar. We were trying to promote solar to a women's group there. Found out that she was very excited for solar, but go to the kitchen, it's completely black. Because she's been cooking using wood for years, to take it as part of life, that they're going to cook in the kitchen, and that's it. So when I asked her why are you not using LPG as a cooking fuel, LPG is a rich man's fuel. How much is it? 385 rupees. Came back the next day, sat with her, calculated the cost of wood. Because she was paying for wood on a daily basis, she was paying 390 rupees for wood. 5 rupees more than LPG. Just because you have to pay LPG one time, because a rich man's fuel. So we created some women entrepreneurs who do this cooking, better efficient cookers, which actually takes 1/4 the wood, they spend 175 rupees, the extra 200 rupees goes for the solar lighting. So it's a combination of two technology savings that we did the financial jugglery and put it. So what happened, I'm just trying to tell you that throw your Excel sheets out of the door. When you want to do business, when you want to create energy services, Excel sheets actually kills your innovation. And all this business planning is good to have a business plan, but don't like being so rigid. Because market, you need to look at market, you need to look at needs of what people need. You can absolutely fit in. What we have discussed, this is our 11th year of operation. We have 75,000 clients in 3 countries, most 50,000 of them in India. None of them had electricity. Everybody has paid, and most of them are under $2 a day, have paid for solar lighting. They can. It's basically destroyed a myth that poor people cannot afford solar technology, poor people cannot run these technologies. I have 150 employees, and most of the employees are school dropouts, 80% of them. So the whole business of mine runs on villages, provided we listen to what they have to tell, and then you actually can run a commercial business socially. Thank you.
Our next speaker is from BMS. I'm sure they will be happy to enlighten us as to what they are working on.
I had a couple of quick time movies, but apparently we were Windows machines, so I'm going to wing it. My name is Carl Bassett. I'm from Greenbrier County, West Virginia. I've invented a product that I call a microplaster, which is a system for cracking rock. That essentially, rather than overcome the compressive strength, which is what we pretty much do here, you don't see hydraulic backhoes and that kind of thing. Pretty expensive pieces of equipment. The compressive strength of rock, and I'm sure that lots of engineers and maybe they can correct me, but my understanding is it's generally 10 times the tensile strength. So the theory behind our device is that if you had a way, obviously beating on the rock, you're going to have to overcome that compressive strength. If you had a way to pull the rock apart, you could expend 1/10 the energy to actually break that rock. That's the theory of all this. By the way, I'm a high school dropout myself, so I don't know what the benefit of an education might be. So the way we do this, we discovered that there's a class of propellants, it's a low-grade explosives that are used mostly in ammunition, small arms shell, a whole family of chemistry, which is sort of under the radar of the ATF in this country and lots of other organizations that sort of regulate explosives in other countries. It has an interesting characteristic that it has a very high burning rate when it's subjected to pressure. So our thought was that we could make small, essentially blank cartridges, put them in a very small hole, so microblaster we drill a 5/16 hole, it's about the size of a big can, about 9 inches deep. Put the cartridge in, and then we have an initiating unit that goes in on top of that, and then it's triggered remotely. We have a couple of ways of doing that. The simplest one is a lanyard activating system. You're 25 feet away. So you're well out of the area of when anything's going to break. You can put a carpet over it and nothing actually slides out at all. The beauty of the whole pressure sensitivity of the materials that we're using is that after the cartridge is initiated inside the rock, pressure builds at a really high rate. But as soon as that rock cracks, that environment is contained in essentially drops that pressure. So unlike traditional explosives, which consume themselves entirely once initiated and tend to throw themselves all around or don't break what it is that you're trying to break, which is, from the blaster's point of view, totally unsuccessful. So they'll always use a little more powder than they think, or propellant or whatever they're using. And that's necessary. As an example of how effective this is, a local city a little south of where I live was extending a water system to a town just north of them, and they hit We brought limestone for your geologists, so know it's a particularly hard type of limestone. And they brought in a big track machine with a hydraulically activated, basically jackhammer on a huge scale. They paid the company that brought it in $150 an hour for the machine and an operator. They ran it for 2 shifts, 15 hours, so that was what it cost, $2,400. The supervisor on the project went out and he'd seen a demo that I'd done and said, this is ridiculous. We need to speed this up. We can't afford this kind of thing for the amount of progress we're making for the water lines. Went to our local dealer, bought the entire system, drilled, the bits, everything. I think he spent $700. Went back out, and 2 hours later he said we equaled the volume of rock that he cracked. Owned the system and spent, a good deal less money. So this I think is probably what's going to make, because the developing world is never going to be able to afford these machines. And by the way, they typically go for $500,000 equipment that size. They're never going to be able to afford it. That capital element is just way beyond anything they're ever going to have. But if they could equal, the playing field with a device that's $500 a kit, basically that's legal, passes all the tests of explosive, can't be really adapted as a terrorist device. And we work pretty hard at making sure that wasn't going to be easy. It's easier to build a bomb from scratch, take our system. So that's sort of the basis of the whole thing. One issue that I have with it is that it's made from some fairly sophisticated alloy, and so we probably won't be able to have this produced in other countries, or at least not countries with pretty good, machine technology, metallurgy. But again, the system is so cheap and compact. Basically, the small system, the lanyard activated system weighs 10 pounds, and it sits in a case half the size of an attaché case. The National Park Service uses them now in wilderness areas where they're not. They have to backpack everything. I'm sure you're familiar with this. Wilderness areas, you're not allowed to use anything with a motor in it. So basically, they'll backpack these things, and it's changed the way that they're building on the trail. We don't have a real track record, in the developing world, but it's on the strength of the performance of this thing, and I think it's given us, this laureateship. That's essentially, what we're doing. I apologize. I didn't realize that it's going to be asked to speak, and I've not had the pictures, and I've got lots of great videos. We do have a website which has a lot of information on it. It's micro-blaster.com. Sure. Is it on there? Okay, so you've got it already. Great. Okay, now
all right, and our next speaker is from and Dave.
Thank you very much for having us here tonight. And it's Melanie. Since we just connected to us because she works in Brazil and we have many friends in common. And the story of this project is very connected also to my life. I consider myself a social entrepreneur, and I used to be a journalist, and very involved also in the women's movement. And one of the things I always thought, what it takes for really women to come out and to really be what they can be. And one of the things is confidence, and how do you build, because sometimes one of the points of being a social entrepreneur and really doing something for people is to understand, as Harish said, is to understand, to listen to what are their needs, but also at what they need to go to their next level. And in the case of women, sometimes things that is very important. They have all these capabilities, they are active, but they are also not valued by the society, and as they are not valued by the society, they don't know how to value themselves. They don't know exactly how they can come out and really speak up and be more positive about what they can do and what they can bring as well. So confidence was clear that it was an important thing. And how, in a way of promoting women's confidence, in a way that they could at the same time be in contact with the community and starting doing things was through radio. This was an experience I have had in a country that I myself have tested, which was in Italy, where women have this radio program broadcast for all the country, talking about women's issues, talking about also things that they did. So in 1988, we started this radio program in Brazil, which was called The Women Speak Up. And from that radio program, and very quickly here, we talked, and then you can see, we can send you this PowerPoint for the ones that are interested. We have the story and how, in the context in which it was created. So, but the interesting thing, we started with a radio program in 1988 in Rio, and that program became like a pilot, in which we saw what kind of issues, how the public we wanted to reach reacted, and how we kind of built that relationship in which we engage women. And from that program, we kind of this is, I think, one of the issues that you are interested in, scale. How you build scale. How you build from something that is one idea, and you go through the different stages, and most of the time it's like it unfolds by itself, because you see, you start doing things and you know the flow where it can go. And the way in our case was with this program in radio, and then this program has showed us like a model, and that model we start to replicate through training. And over like 5 years, we had already this network of radios, that had started, that all the women had started applying the model that we had done, we did in Rio. We started in Rio, and then in order to support these programs, we start to actually channeling content and programs as well, and this became this 400 Women's Radio Program network. And through the years, at the end of the 90s, when the internet became available and access was a big issue, we thought we have already a network, and it's a network that already reached the community, and it's a network that can actually make that technology easier for people, because it's already technology that is starting and is using communication. And in most of these communities, the radio is really a hub of communication. All kinds of issues, pass through the radio. So it was much easier to actually make it clear for people how internet and information technology could be something useful for them. And so we had started by thinking, first thing we did was to put our content on a radio website, so that what we used to do just stand in this stage and these CDs all over the country could do now through the internet. And then the question was that for many of these radios, access, there was not the infrastructure yet, or it was either it was non-existent or it was very expensive. So we did this pilot with 30 of our radios. Of course, there are many of them that are in urban settings, and internet ADSL is not so expensive, so they could connect it. But for some of them, it was really the case of their satellite connection, and thinking about this project as a local development project, not only because satellite connection is expensive and we had to do all kinds of partnerships, especially with government, together. So we are at the stage, because I don't think I have much time. 2 minutes? Okay. We are at the stage now, because we had all the phases of really of training and really seeing how these internet centers, which were connected to the radio, could be sustainable. So this is actually the phase in which we are now, of trying to make, trying to actually use the internet to really expand and improve the quality of information that these radios can broadcast, and the quality of the program. And make the telecenters sustainable for the community. And then we are looking into 4 kinds of sustainability. The social sustainability, which means that the community really has to support it, and it takes time, it takes a strategy for that, but I think this is the one that actually we did better, because radios by themselves are already socially sustainable, and so the women we work with are doing it, and it's working. The most complicated is the technological sustainability, how we actually make these things, especially these telecenters that are in remote areas, sustainable in terms of the maintenance, in terms of updating the technology, in terms of all kinds of things, virus, and so there is a lot of capacity building that is required, and also partnerships that we have to build for that. The financial and economic sustainability, because in some of these places, it's not that people can get a lot of money from the community just for offering services. So we are seeing the different models that can apply to other places, because it's not that we have just one model. And I think that this is one of the beauties, but also one of the challenges of the work we do in trying to actually bring in technology, but also all the knowledge that we have of markets, of bringing partnerships into something that creates social change, but it's also a learning experience in which communities, and especially in our case, women are part of. Thank you.
Our last speaker is representing the Center for Improvement of Working Conditions and the Environment.
Thank you very much. My name is Saidama. I am from Center for Improvement of Working Conditions and Environment in Lahore, Pakistan. Our center is basically focused on improving the working environment, mainly in the industrial sector, through training and information provision. But for the last 10 years or so, myself and my colleagues have also focused on child labor, children working in different sectors. Initially, we started work on the soccer balls and some other instrument making sectors where our studies actually help launch action-based programs for the elimination of child labor in these sectors. This particular project, which was selected for Tech Award, pertained to the carpet weaving, hand-knotted carpet, which I think in America there are rugs, or oriental rugs. They are made mostly by the rural families in South and Central Asian countries, Pakistan, Iran, Afghanistan, India, Nepal. There are a lot of families are involved in making these hand-knotted carpets. In Pakistan, there are around 300,000 looms. It means around 300,000 families are involved with carpet making. It is done mainly in rural areas, and the 80% of the workforce are female, and according to some surveys, 60% of them are children. We studied the impact of this occupation on the health of the children, and we noticed that the children, as they grow up, they become debilitated, they become deformed as a result of work. And when we focus what are the specific reasons for these problems, and we found the posture in which they were working was very, very cramped, very, very uncomfortable. At the same time, we found that the carpet manufacturing, although it's not very, very mechanical job, it's very tedious kind of work, but there is chemicals involved. There are wools which are dyed by certain dyes and acids that you use in it. They are also inhaling that. As a result of that study, we also found that as the people grow older, their working ability, their earning ability becomes less and less. They spend a lot of time on the bed, become sick. So it's a kind of a trap in which once the family goes in, they cannot send their children to school. It's very difficult because as the people grow old, they become more dependent on the work of the children because they themselves cannot work more comfortably. So we started off, and one reason, as I mentioned, is the workplace itself. We started off with the idea that we should improve the design of the room and the workstation as a whole. If you see, this slide shows a few sides of the old traditional room, which has not gone much change over the centuries. The people, the children and adults, they have to sit either on the toes or squat on the floor. And in a very cramped condition, it has to be installed alongside a wall, which is usually in the villages. It's a very dark corner of the home where there is very little light, and the floor is uneven. So sometimes I think that people who have bent, whose one side is permanently tilted to one side because their posture is such that they are always working in this way. And every time we would enter this place, you see there is a small wooden kind of rod visible. Usually it hits them in the head. And also the mechanism for the bath has to be kept very tight. So they have a kind of a chain winding mechanism where the chains actually go into this lever projection. Whenever they try to wrap it tightly after the finish of the carpet is 4 inches or so, sometimes the chain becomes loose from this position and it can hit them in their face. And we have seen several cases where people were hit in the cheek or in their eyes and they have very, very grave injuries. So we started off to remove these problems, try to engineer them out. My personal background is not in engineering. I am chemistry master's. I had in chemistry, but I had done my master's in occupational health as well. So I've been working on all these areas, including child labor for the last 17 years. So we assembled a team of people and tried to come up with a better design loom. And now this is our product, which is we designed it such a way that it is adult friendly. The adults can sit more comfortably on it. They can work for extended hours and they can earn better income. At the same time, those chains have been removed completely, and it is portable one. And we have encouraged the family to place it in their home where there is better light and better ventilation available. Where it was not, a place was not available, we try to make small windows so they have more air circulation. At the same time, we have provided very low, very cheap quality dust mats where the people can sleep with a wet cloth every 2 hours, so they don't inhale a lot of dust being airborne from the floor. So this loan and its associated health and safety controls, we provided 30 of them with the help of the International Labour Organization, which was also supported by the US Department of Labor. These 30 have become, we have been testing it. And let me tell you one thing, we were hearing that communities should also participate in what we are doing. But sometimes communities, like when we try to change it, everybody says, no, this will not work. Every worker says, no, this will not work. We have never been sitting on a bench or on a chair. It cannot be, the effect cannot be woven that way. We tried to convince, and slowly, gradually, after some people started using it, it became popular. And in fact, its acceptability in the women has been much more than the men. We still don't know the reason. But men usually work in a work sites where there are a lot of organized work sites. Women work in their household. There was another factor. Most of the old looms, though they were very, very poorly designed, they are owned by the contractors, and the contractors actually dictated the terms of business. They told the families at what rate they are going to make. So these loans are owned by the family. At the moment, all these 30 were given over free of cost. And after this, these families have actually broken that stranglehold of the contractors. They have become free from that kind of debt bondage. And now they have improved their income by striking a deal with whoever is the best businessman to work with. So that is also one reason. So we, after using these looms, after having installed these looms for 2 years, we have assessed what impact it has. And we have found, we are still compiling the study, but initial results show us there is remarkable improvement in the back and back pain and the knees and joint pains and other problems which the women face. And at the same time, their income has increased from 10 to 150%, depending on different circumstances. Everybody reported that their income has increased as a result of that. And one thing encouraging about sustainability is that a lot of other people, though this loom is around 3 times costlier than the traditional one, but a lot of people are replicating it on their own, which is encouraging, which means that they think it is useful for them. At the same time, we are trying to convince the government, and we have some success, that it should be provided as a kind of a measure to alleviate poverty in the rural areas, especially those household which knows carpet weaving skills, then adults can work on this in a productive and healthier manner. At the same time, since I thought it is a good time to share some other ideas. One area which we think is worth working is brick kilns. Where a lot of families are working in this kind of bondage, they take advantage and they cannot work. They have to work under a very, very difficult circumstances. And one reason we have found out is again very, very poor technology. People are paid by the number of bricks they make. They do it manually. We are thinking if we can improve the number of bricks they make a day, again manually, but there is mechanical design, I think their incomes will increase definitely, and there will be less demand of this kind of labor, and that will create conditions where this kind of bondage can be eliminated. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank all of our speakers and open it up for questions, and please feel free to address